Welcome back to the channel. My name is Cass.
I'm Zach.
And we are at Fire and Ice Designs. I'm the fire and he's the ice. And we thought that we had been on the YouTubes long enough to where we should do a little bit better introduction of ourselves and our cosplay past. So that's what this video is about. This is our costuming in review.
Come along on the journey through our past costumes and see how bad we started off too. Anyway, moving on.
We'll start with my costumes. And my costuming slash sewing, crafting really started very early for me. I've talked a little bit about learning to sew with my grandmother. She's also the reason that I am into making my own costumes and not just buying whatever the Disney store puts out, because
better fabrics for one.
Better fabrics, and you can actually make it the way you want it. So the first one, I think, based on the timeline, based on just like the way that I look in these photos, is Cinderella. And I don't think she had a pattern for this. I think she was freewheeling it and just making it up as she went along. It doesn't look like Cinderella at all, but man, if I didn't feel like a princess. You can tell based on my face. And then the next one is Snow White, and Snow White actually shows up twice because there's this picture here where you can see Grandma extended the bottom of the costume to make it longer so that I could wear it for longer, and it had a cape with a collar and it was awesome, and it had the like slashed sleeve things that I'm still want to come back into modern fashion today. And then her coup de grace was Ariel because it snowed that year for Halloween, and I was able to wear my winter coat and snow pants and boots underneath this Ariel tail. So this Halloween costume I just think is excellent, and she did a lot of like beadwork around the photo quality here is garbage.
Yeah, I was about to say, would you call that beadwork? But
she's got...
We're looking at scanned old photos.
And then the next year was Jasmine, I think. In any case, this is the Jasmine costume. So Jasmine, floofy sleeves, short top. Obviously, you know, I was but a wee lass, so there was something covering the midriff. It was also October in Wisconsin. We weren't bearing flesh. I didn't like that one as much. The fabric was itchy, but you know, it gave the right look. And then my favorite of favorites is Belle, and I still have this costume. She made a cloak and the apron and the blouse and the blue dress, and I loved it. It was amazing.
It started your love affair with the character early on.
Yes, it did. I really like that costume. I actually wore that costume multiple years. We repurposed it as a Raggedy Ann costume. I'm not sure how my mom made that work other than wig and makeup. And then this wasn't actually a costume. This was just a thing that Grandma made because Grandma was Grandma. I fell into the American Girl doll hole, and I wanted the Felicity costume. And so without a simplicity pattern, just freewheeling it, Grandma whipped up this sort of Felicity-esque dress. And when I tell you I wore that thing to pieces, I don't think the top exists anymore. I still have the skirt, but I'm pretty sure the top does not exist. And that was sort of the beginning of my historical costuming interest. We'll talk about some things that I made myself. I was in middle school when I made these two costumes. The first one is a Native American costume. This one has a lot of problems. First and foremost being, this is probably not a thing that I should have been wearing, and I'm aware of that now. I made it because I was cast in a play. As Zach said, I was a theater kid. I was cast in a play as a Native American maiden, and I was living in Illinois at the time, and the entire school pretty much was white. Looking back on it, adult me is like, why would you do that? Why? 6th grade me was like, cool, I get to be in the play. And then the next one is after we moved to North Carolina, and a couple of friends of mine and I dressed up as Egyptian goddesses. And you can tell based on the pictures that I thought I was hot stuff. I was really happy with the fabric that I purchased for the cape. I was really happy with the way that the dress came out. So that's the me made, and then briefly I'm going to run through some things that I cobbled together out of pieces and bits of other things. We'll start with this one. This is a Juliet costume. Again, we're going with the historical-ish costumey stuff. I wanted to be Juliet for Halloween, and my mom was like, no, we're not buying you a costume, so we went and we rented it. I was super bougie and spoiled at that point because Grandma had made all my costumes, so we rented this one. And then there's the witch costume that is in the pizza picture that I store-bought a dress and a wig and, like, yeah. Again, I thought I looked awesome. Looking back at these pictures, I'm like, you didn't even do your eyes with the makeup. And then there's the blue outfit. So this, I bought the skirt and the overdress at a Renaissance festival, and there are several pictures of different iterations of this costume. One of them is me with super short hair wearing a pirate hat, and I have a sword, and I wore it to a Renaissance festival. That one, yeah. And then the top is a, like, medieval-esque history bounding before history bounding was the thing.
As you have the katana from Highlander at that, too. We're really mixing genres here.
Yeah, I wore it to a Renaissance festival. That's my excuse. And the last one is something that I cobbled together for Halloween one year. I was a wench. I am wearing a white skirt that just was in my wardrobe, and that red Felicity skirt that is just a red circle skirt on an elastic waistband, and a Tudor style bodice, pair of bodies that I got at my very first Renaissance festival. It was college. I wore it to a college Halloween party. There's a missing photo somewhere of, and I think it's missing because I don't think I let anyone take pictures of me in it. I made my own Juliet costume in high school, and I used like glitter bug costume satin and some like chiffon to try to make like a like flowy sleeved, like flounced collar Juliet dress for a costume party. And I got really salty because it came out really terribly because the tension on the sewing machine that I had was really bad. And nothing could fix it, and nothing could save it, and I worked so hard and it still looked like garbage. Yeah. So I think there's a reason that doesn't have photos.
One of the earliest I ever did, because they started off with either video game or animated, they were still rather small cons at the like 99, 2000, around here at least. The first one was the main character from Martian Semester Nadesco, Akito Tenkawa. I got a chef's coat from a friend and used fabric paint because I can't find the one picture of me in that. Took fabric paint and painted this pattern onto the chef's coat and had for the patch on the shoulder a iron-on transfer. There was a little bit of interfacing to get the collar to stand up, and otherwise it's just black pants, black shoes, and call it a day. But you start somewhere. So from Metal Gear Solid, because when that first came out, friends said I looked really a lot like Otacon, so I'm like, okay, I'll run with that. That's super simple. Get a lab coat, make the kind of ID badge, and dressed up my friend Chad as Snake because he had fun with that too. So
he looks like he's having fun.
We went through that like 2 or 3 different conventions at least, possibly 3, maybe 4 even. Next up we had, that first picture was 2002, this one was from 2003. It's going from the original Resident Evil, where you have Chris Redfield and Albert Wesker. So this was mostly store-bought with some adjustments to things. I had the iron-on transfers for for the vests and the stars patches for the shoulders, and also did some paintwork on the back of the vests. I have this wonderful dyed gel, which is basically just colored glue to get my hair to do that. Meanwhile, Chad just gonna look scruffy because I scruffy. One of the first big forays into making my own stuff, because I wanted to, was later that year, same 2003, with Otakon, and I made like the convention. The character is named after the convention, so meta. But I wanted to try actually like making some armor and so on, and this is from, well, it was the PS2 version of the whole Shinobi series, and I really liked the whole big, gigantic long scarf. I had a friend who worked with me at Border. She made the shirt and the cowl and the 8 foot of scarf. But I went and got, it was corrugated aluminum sheeting from Lowe's, like the kind you get on a cheap shed. Hammered that out, and that's what I made this metal armor out of, and had actual leather backing. I think that's old, basically climbing cord for the other things, and I was pretty well happy with it. The headpiece fell on the ground and broke. Oh well. So around that time, it had to have been around that time, that X-Men 2 came out, and Nightcrawler, that opening sequence is just excellent, marvelous, wonderful, masterful. I have a similar facial structure to Alan Cummings, the actor who played our good friend Kurt Wagner. And so I had a trench coat, I had a vest, I had some wild patterned flannel pants, got my friend Chad set up with some aluminum claws for Wolverine, and we kind of ran with it. I didn't know how to do like the cream makeup then to not make it look streaky, and yeah, so I look back at this now and it's kind of, hey, and I used a can of like blue Krylon spray paint for my hands before I tried making the gloves. Ad hoc.
You put spray paint on your skin?
It washes off. We're not going to go into why I did it because, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
So I revisited this a few times, a few variants which involved making gloves, because I had cast my forearms to also attempt to sculpt and make that using, I don't even think YouTube existed yet, so there was no way to really do tutorials other than guesswork.
Blogs.
And those were harder to find.
Yeah.
It was difficult to figure out things, so, but I went and revisited this, got the right color vest and trench coat. I think the pants I had were closer to that. Then I think I have a gap in some of my pictures because I can't find some of these anymore. There was one year, 2004 or 5, that we did an X-Men group at Otakon, and I reprised Nightcrawler, but I will put here the version that I used. That was running pants, black running pants, and long sleeve Under Armour shirt that I then glued the paint in, the puff paint, and glued sort of the ribbed piping fabric stuff too. And
is this the black and yellow?
Yes.
Okay, I think I have seen this picture. It exists somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah, I'm doing the superhero pose on the ground.
Yeah, so we did the Planeteers.
It was a whole big group of us, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And rather than be Hart, our friend Gary came dressed as Gaia.
As Guy, yes.
Yeah.
I think the photos I have of him that are really blurry because they were from like my Razor mobile phone.
Yeah. But there's a picture of the two of us as Linka and Wheeler. Yeah.
My hair felt like a Cheeto because we had the spray color.
Yeah. But this is just like a closet cosplay, except the shirts, we bought the rings, and I bought like a cheap $10 blonde Halloween wig.
I was working at Kinko's at the time, and I made the shirts with just basic iron-on transfers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We ran into a lot of drunk Captain Planets.
Just the one.
Was it just the one?
Yeah, it was. He was.
Was
very
it the next
smashed.
year that we ran into a bunch of Captain Planets? I feel like there was one year where we ran into a bunch of them. And then there was another year, I think it was the year after, you reprised Nightcrawler to go to Franklin Street, and I was
Dark Phoenix,
and we took a witch costume that I bought like the day of Halloween on super clearance, and like iron-on appliqued a phoenix symbol onto it,
like
and spray painted some boots.
Oh yeah.
Spray painted some boots gold.
Got the sash. Yeah.
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 And
I mean, it's
maroon
college.
tights.
Yeah, it's college Halloween, so there's a level of meh about that, but
yeah. So then I convinced Zach to go to the Renaissance Festival. Yeah, we went to the Raleigh one.
Yeah, and it was the first shirt you made.
Yeah, and it was awful.
I might have pictures of that.
It was bad. It was the first thing I had sewn in like 10 years.
So Chad wanted to be the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yeah.
And so...
And you're wearing the kilt and the stuff that you bought for our wedding. And of course, because he had a kilt, I needed a Highland Lass outfit. You can see, like, there's like a daisy trim around the bottom, and I really painstakingly hand sewed the daisy trim onto it.
Was that one of your older shirts, or did you make the shirt too? I feel like there was...
I think it was an older shirt that I had.
Because you were still kind of off of the, for lack of a better word, PTSD of the shirt that you had made for me before.
I was like, I'm not making a new shirt. I did at one point make a new shirt for that, because I do have a shirt that I made that goes with that. But I made the bodice thing. I love the exterior fabric of the skirt. I was using a simplicity pattern. I was 100% going off of the pattern. I knew nothing about historical accuracy. I think this costume is like general fantasy 18th century peasant.
Something, yeah. My kilt's gotten a lot of mileages from wearing for the wedding because, yeah.
Yes. So I like this costume. The skirt fabric, I think I bought like duck cloth or canvas because it was the right
weight,
like color, but it's really heavy and it doesn't really breathe. I also there's a petticoat under this that's out of the same fabric but in beige. The bodice, I followed the pattern instructions. I used the metal eyelets like they said to, now I look at it and I'm like, metal eyelets weren't a thing, and there are a lot of eyelets, and I don't really understand why there are 3 like spots where there are lacing. Like,
was the back one piece?
The back was all one piece, and then there are these 2 like lacing
floaty
strips in the front that I don't understand why they're there now. Like now, I would be like, I'm just doing one set of lacing in the front. Or I'm doing a set of lacing in the front and a set of lacing in the back. Like,
it looked good at the time.
I'm really proud of the way it came out. I also used like red suede. It was the first time using bias tape. The Dread Pirate Roberts shirt, I think I used the same pattern that I did for the shirt that I made for him that was a disaster. I'm not super, like, it's not the best thing I've ever made. But it's also not the worst. It was way better than the first version of that shirt. I learned a lot making that first version of the shirt. The second version is a lot better. I also didn't do too bad given the fact that the person that I was making it for was living in Atlanta. At the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, my friend Nancy and I decided we were going to be Anna and Elsa. And so I started working on a mock-up for Princess Anna. And because it was going to be the most complicated thing I had ever made. And so I got a bunch of like quilting cotton and just went for it. I was like, I'll make up the pattern the way it says, make sure I know what I'm doing. I made it up. I was like, worst case scenario, I have a princess dress that I can wear. And that's where I discovered that my torso is not the length that Simplicity thinks it needs to be.
By like 3 inches.
And I started
ridiculous.
making modifications to the pattern. So 2014, we decided we were going to Dragon Con. Zach had wanted to cosplay
Isaac Clarke from Dead Space because it's a fun game. And I decided I wanted to take a foray into messing with foam. I don't have any pictures of this because I was really unhappy with it. And
I do.
I know. I'm looking at them. I'm noticing all sorts of different problems, like the fact that those yellows in the plasma cutter and the foam actually don't match. A few main things I learned. Video game helmets don't have to obey the laws of physics.
Yes.
And so I worked around a sort of goalie's helmet that I then built this on top of. And the problem is you're adding about, an extra several inches of diameter to your head, and so it just looks grossly disproportional. Having that in the backseat of the car driving down to Atlanta in Labor Day weekend with all the heat, any kind of shaping I had done to the foam kind of just reverted itself. I was not happy with this at all. I plan on redoing it now that I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm going to right my wrongs. In the second game, you meet Ellie.
And she's a badass bitch.
Oh,
and
she ever.
I want to grow up to be Ellie. If he was going to be Isaac, I was going to be Ellie. So here's what my Ellie looks like. It involved almost zero sewing.
You had to make the armband.
So I bought 2 tank tops. And then I cut up the pink tank top and spray adhesived it to the white one. I sewed a pink wristband and then a brown elbow patch. Men's cargo pants, because they don't make cargo pants for women, and some boots. My favorite part, the thing I'm most proud of, is the wound makeup that I did, because I did bruise makeup around the eye, and I put an eye patch on, but I did the bruise makeup on the arm, and it came out so good. It's so good.
The following summer, doing that...
Belle is here. But we're going to do a deep dive for my Belle costume that I made for Spirit Week next week. I made it in 2015 for Spirit Week. In less than a week. I will go into this in more depth. Because we went to Dragon Con and we were like, this is awesome. We had a good time. We're going back. We're doing more cosplay.
So going into 2016, we wanted to do more challenging and fun costumes. And the idea that came up was steampunk Disney villains. Here's some of the drawings of what we did. There's somewhat of a dearth of interesting male Disney villains.
Magical male Disney villains.
So, she wanted to go with Maleficent, and I landed on Dr. Facilier from Princess and the Frog. There's certain things with cosplay, it's like playing the different races of the character of, are you honoring the character? Is it appropriation? Is it not kosher? I wanted to do the skull mask, and having learned off of Isaac, we decided we were going to fully cast my head. The last time I actually shaved clean, and I look really strange. Working off of those casts, made the base mask, and you actually see the finished version there. I might try to remake that so we can get some better washes and better skull texture out of it. But you also want to remake the suit.
It was my first foray into proper tailored menswear, and I use the term tailored very lightly because
there's a reason this picture the sleeves aren't on, because it took 4 tries.
Yes, sleeves are a thing. Other than having an issue with the sleeves, it needs to be tailored in order to really look right. I didn't do a mock-up because I was like, surely it's just gonna fit. But I'm not the only one with a long torso. So I had to go buy more purple suiting fabric and redo it and lengthen it.
As the counterpart to my facility, we went with Maleficent because we decided I'm going to make a jetpack with wings. There were just a pair of cords in the back that you could pull down that and the wings would open.
Yeah, so this is my steampunk Maleficent, for the like costume, I used some boots that I had and some LuLaRoe green leggings. And I made a purple and like wired ribbon for the bottom of the skirt. And I made her like fur shoulder piece and a shirt with like long flowy sleeves. But I'm really happy with the like corseted piece.
I took floral foam.
Oh, that was such a mess.
Oh, because there was something online of how to make one way to make horns, and I used like floral foam and just sculpted and shaved that down to try to get the horn pieces.
It was a mess.
It really was.
Our poor apartment, our poor carpet in that apartment. Later, Zach went back and bought me horns, Maleficent horns. So we are gonna redo that, reprise that. So that same DragonCon venture, for my birthday, Nancy got us all tickets to the night at the aquarium. So Nancy dressed up as Ariel, and I dressed up as Vanessa.
So I just went with a closet cosplay for Eric.
And those are his mom's pants, and I think...
That's my Ren Fair boots. That sash is my old Shinobi scarf, the 8'1", and that's my Jacobite shirt that I got for our wedding.
I have a picture in my folder of me with an Ursula.
Yeah.
And you with, like, the other Prince Eric's. I was really happy with the way that came out. My waist is nipped, and it fits really well. And so I just modified the pattern that I used for the Anna bodice, because I had already modified that to fit me. And I just used the base skirt pattern from the Highland Lass skirt. My friend Courtney made the shell necklace. We planned 5 cosplays for this trip.
Like, here's 1940s Catwoman and Riddler. We thought we were going to make it down there Thursday night for for that masquerade ball. So we had those, we threw them together, and we didn't actually get to wear them.
No, because we didn't make it down there in time. So Thursday night we were going to do the 1940s
Catwoman
and Riddler. And then Friday we did steampunk Disney villains. And
Saturday was
was
Anna and Elsa.
Anna and Elsa. Nancy
Jack.
was Elsa, and Zach was going to have Jack, but Jack got shelved. This is the final product of Anna. I didn't get the embroidery done on the bodice or on the skirt because I got the skirt made and was like, let's embroider it now. You can't put a finished skirt in an embroidery machine. I should have embroidered it before I made the skirt. But for Halloween that year...
One of my karate assistants, she would have a yearly Halloween party.
So this year it was Harry Potter themed.
And so I decided I wanted to go with the Snatcher that you see, creepy guy who can smell Hermione. Yeah.
And I was Ravenclaw Belle.
As one does.
Later that year, for New Year's Eve, our friend invited us to a steampunk New Year's Eve ball. So I went with a steampunk Jane Austen Regency style dress. I had this pattern already. I bought some fabric that I was in love with and had been lusting after and wanted to do something with. Again, I didn't make a mock-up, and I needed to add panels to the sides because the amount of fabric that was in the skirt was not enough to accommodate my underbust to hip ratio, so I had to add panels to the side. But you can't see them because of the overlay. I needed undergarments for that, and that is a general trend. I didn't have undergarments for Anna. I needed the right undergarments for this Regency dress. And it's inaccurate, but I love how it looks. Also, it's all 100% polyester, so it was hot.
Mine, I went back and looked at some of the stuff from Facilier. Kept the hat, kept the bandolier, because we're mixing technology and magic again, because why not? And I made a demon hunter. I like how it looked. I found a lot of neat little things that don't really show in this picture here. That bracer was lovely. I repainted my first Nerf gun.
He had a little orb that pulsed. That was really cool.
You can't tell here, but yeah, it looked super nice. And there's a few other things I want to improve on this to really just make it the more ornate of steampunk. Just kind of really go with it. But that was fun.
So then after that, we kind of took a break because we made a tiny human.
Mm-hmm.
And
then the world caught fire, and
I made a lot of quilts and I made a lot of clothes, but before the world caught fire, we did start our fire and ice business. The world caught fire in 2020, so we had plans, but those plans went with everyone else's. And then that's where sort of...
It's kind of where we've left off.
Yeah. Ariel came in there.
In January this year, we launched this.
And that brings us to looking to the future.
I want to revisit some stuff with Facilier because redoing that would be fun, but remake Isaac definitely now that I know more with foam crafting. And similarly, Sea of the Destiny stuff, I want to make Cade 6. Because Cade 6 is fun, because there's going to be a lot to do with this. There's the whole foam crafting, there's going to be some more tricks with lighting up the eyes, painting on the cloak, and distressing, and finish off Handsome Jack. The next big steampunk project, along with, we've talked about she's doing steampunk Black Widow, I'm going to go with the Tony Stark from that era. Because, yes.
So for me, the immediate thing that I'm working on right now is revisiting Belle. And I'll talk a little bit about why I'm revisiting Belle and do a deep dive of Belle next week. And then I am diving into Steampunk Black Widow, which is going to involve a new corset and a bustle and some 1880s Victorian style, possibly incorporating EL wire. We watched Black Widow last night, and I'm like super hype about this project now. Like, I have renewed energy to work on this, but I have an idea for an Elizabethan / Tudor style Thumbelina, where Thumbelina is getting married to the mole, and she's wearing that like god awful like giant poofy monstrosity with the giant collar and the fluff sleeves, and the like sticking out straight hair. Also have designs on making a historically accurate corpse bride dress, depending on how this first bustle gown goes. So those are the like 3 big things. I'm sure there will be little things. That's where we're going. That's the long-term plan. Those are the goals. Now that we have gotten to the end of this super rambly long video, and
this is a lot longer than I thought it was going to turn out to be.
We are going to sign off. Let us know down below in the comments what your plans for your future cosplay and costuming plans are. Like this video if you enjoyed listening to us ramble and rant about our costumes. Subscribe if you want to see the future projects that we have described coming your way, and you want to help keep us accountable for staying on track with those. And we will see you all next week with a new video where I talk about all the reasons that my Belle costume looks great but is terrible to wear. Have a good week, guys!